All right, guys, welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we're going to be looking at the 2022 recruitment class. We're going to be looking at the top uncommitted recruits in this year's cycle. I think this has been a very diverse class so far. Out of the four powerhouses of Bama, OSU, Clemson, and Georgia, there's only one top 10 commit between those four schools currently at the moment, so it's been very diverse. Starts with Travis Hunter from Florida State. You also have Luther Burden. He's currently slated to stay home and go to Missouri. North Carolina's gotten a handful of top players as well. So it's been very diverse so far, but today we're going to be looking and setting our sights on the top uncommitted players, as the early signing day is just 2 days away, and then the real signing day is on the 3rd of February. So kicking things off, Harold Perkins from Texas A&M, big-time player. This guy, he should seek to put on some weight, 210 pounds. Gabe Brooks of 24/7 Sports. He compared him to Miles Jack, and that makes sense. Both of them played running back and linebacker. Miles Jack, he was 225 when he got to school. He got significantly bigger as time went on with the Bruins. He also got less and less touches as his career went on. Two-way players usually don't work out in college very well. Marcus Jones has had a successful year this season. Adoree Jackson. Those are two guys in recent memory that have been successful in multiple facets of the game, but I think Perkins should just likely stay a linebacker. That would probably benefit him the most. Incredibly athletic. He ran a 4.49 allegedly before his junior season started. This guy's an athletic freak. Texas A&M is currently slated to get him, the Cypress, Texas native. I think you're going to see him stay home. That's going to be the prediction here. Of course, that's the crystal ball from most of the guys on 24/7 Sports, but this is a heck of a player. And I think he's got an incredibly high ceiling, a lot of potential. You might see Texas make a late surge, but I don't see it happening. Texas A&M, their defense, even though Mike Elko left, this is still going to be a phenomenal unit. We'll see who they get to run their defense. They might just promote internally, but I think Harold Perkins from Cypress, he should stay home, and I think he should just focus on being a linebacker instead of being a two-way player in college. That would benefit his future tremendously. A&M, they also have the guy ranked right below him in Evan Stewart. They have a lot of other guys on here. This could be a massive recruiting class for Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies. The next uncommitted prospect is Damani Jackson. He visited Michigan the day they beat Ohio State. I think it's probably the biggest win in school history, if not one of them. Regardless, that was a massive day for the Wolverines. And he still cut his list down to USC and Alabama. So, maybe he wasn't a fan of the cold weather or something, but that was a very impressive performance. So very odd to make the visit and decide he doesn't want to go there. It is down to the Tide and the Trojans. With Lincoln Riley coming over, that really seemed to pique his interest again. And they also announced yesterday that Dante Williams, the main guy who recruited him, he's been retained on the staff. So I think he's going to stay home, the modern-day guy. It's kind of a USC pipeline. Not so much over the last couple of years, but with Lincoln Riley back in town, or now in town, that is, a big-time coach, great recruiter. You're going to see a lot of those guys start to find their way down to Los Angeles. That's going to be the pick here, I think, the prediction for Damani Jackson. He will end up recommitting to USC. Alabama, great place for cornerbacks to go to. I considered him the favorite once he decommitted from USC. But I think with Williams getting the nod back on the staff, he will be heading to SC. He's a physical tackler. He loves the press. The Trojans, they have really lacked aggressive defensive backs over the last couple of years, and I think Damani really fits that bill tremendously. This should be a really good pairing and a big-time land for USC because it seemed like it was kind of falling downhill once he decommitted, but Lincoln Riley showing up obviously changes things tremendously. Shamar Stewart at 9. This is the 24/7 composite rankings as well. I don't know the difference between this and the top 247. What is it? The top 247. I don't really know the difference. So we're just going to go off these. The first one's the pop up. Shamar Stewart, though, he's ranked 9th. Big time player, big guy, 6'6", 272. Mario Cristobal going to Miami. I think that really opens his recruitment up a bit. He won't commit till the February 2nd deadline. Gives Mario and crew a chance to jump in here. He's only 23 minutes from Miami, from Opelika, Florida. He pretty much played high school there. Dan Lanning was a big part of his recruitment to Georgia. Maybe that departure to Oregon will hurt his chances a bit. The Bulldogs' chances of getting him, that is. A&M, though, they're still kind of the favorite. He's got a wingspan of 80 inches, though. He's a massive player. He can play inside or outside. This is another guy, kind of like Harold Perkins, that I think has tremendous upside. And, of course, the Aggies are the favorite to get both of them. That would just be ridiculous if they can end up with both of these phenomenal prospects. But, you think of Kayvon Thibodeau kind of, what he did for Oregon. Granted, he was the number 1 recruit. I mean, number 9 is not too far behind it. Thibodeau, though, had a phenomenal high ceiling. And Cristobal and that coaching staff were able to get, I'd say, a good portion of that talent out of him. And Stewart, he brings the same thing to the table with the wingspan, the size. He can play inside or outside. I think that might be appealing, along with being able to stay home. So Cristobal in Miami, I'm going to predict them to land up with Stewart, kind of an upset here. I think it's going to come down to them and Miami. I think Georgia is likely out of this race. But I think it'd be really exciting to see him with the Aggies. But Mario's a phenomenal recruiter, and I think 2 months will be enough time for them to make a splash here. I see Shamar Stewart staying home and going to the Hurricanes. Devon Campbell, they just landed Banks at offensive tackle. What is it? Kelvin Banks right here, 15th overall ranked recruit. And they're going to look to land another in-state guy in Devon Campbell. And I think the Longhorns will do that. This is an athletic player. He's big. The diverse running schemes that Steve Sarkisian looks to use. This would be a big land for Texas because of the athleticism, the size. He's already 3'10". I think you're going to see him continue to get bigger and stronger along with that athleticism. I think this would be a phenomenal fit here for Campbell. And the Horns, they're making some real big splashes. You figured they would, but right now they're kind of on pace. Kind of like A&M, there's a lot of guys from Texas that are uncommitted. It'll be Sark versus Jimbo Fisher, I think, here over the next 2 months as we look to see some of these big guys stay home. Devon Campbell, though, I think he's going to be a really good player at the next level. Look at some of the other guys that were already committed. Zach Rice, that other guy I mentioned earlier that's staying home. Well, not really home. He's from Virginia, but it's a big-time ad for Mac Brown on the offensive line. C.J. Hicks and Sonny Styles, 2 defensive players. Personnel has been a big issue for the Buckeyes the last 2 years on defense. Landing a big-time safety and linebacker, it's certainly going to help them out. Next uncommitted big-time recruit, like I just said, guys from Texas are still on the board. Denver Harris is the next one here. I think Elko leaving for Duke, that might affect something. I don't really think it will. T.J. Rushing, the defensive backs coach, he's been outstanding as a recruiter. I think he might even get the promotion to defensive coordinator. I don't know. I think they might just stay inside the program and promote. If not, I think Derek Mason, Barry Odomers names to watch. But I think the Aggies are going to land Denver Harris. He has the physical tools to cover in the SEC. And, of course, he's going to continue to develop. All the raw skills are there athletically. I wouldn't call him elite, but he's certainly top-notch when it comes to that. And with the development, he'll get there, I think. So Denver Harris, Texas A&M. Again, you see they already have Gabriel, Brownlow, Dindy on the defensive line. And they have all those other guys we just talked about that are potentially going to land with the Aggies. This could be a massive class for them. Right below it, they have a quarterback too, Connor Wigman, another guy from Cyprus. So the Aggies right now are on pace. I haven't looked at the team rankings, but I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up with the number 1 class because it looks like they're on pace. You look at Josh Connerly from Rainier Beach. That's right outside of Seattle. It's hard to assume a guy wouldn't want to stay home and play his college ball, but I think that's probably going to be the most likely option here for one of the nation's top tackles. Landing Kalen DeBoer, what will that do to his recruitment? I'm not sure. Alex Mirabal going to Miami with Mario Cristobal. That likely rules out Oregon. I don't expect Miami to be a player either because I just don't think he wants to go, 3,000 so miles across the country to play his college ball. He's a good run blocker, though, and I think Michigan, you see it right here, the crystal balls are to Washington and Michigan. I think those are seriously the 2 players. Being a good run blocker and seeing what Michigan's done, specifically this season, they've done wonders with its development up front. They have the nation's best offensive line. They love to run the ball. It seems like a really good fit. So I think the Wolverines will be competing with the Huskies to land Josh Connerly from Rainier Beach. Ultimately, I think Washington will get the job done. 15 minutes, I'm pretty sure, is the distance from Rainier Beach to Seattle. So a big in-state land if Kalen DeBoer can pull that off. If not, that'd be kind of a disappointing way to start off his tenure. Looking at some other guys here, Ty Simpson, he's going to go to Alabama. He's going to have to wait his turn behind Bryce Young, the Heisman winner. Michael Williams, he was committed to USC at one point. He flipped to Georgia about a month or two ago. He's from Columbus, so it makes sense that he will stay home. Even with Lincoln Riley landing the job, I don't think he's going to switch up at all. Looking at two guys from IMG Academy in the defensive backfield, Kamari Wilson, Damon Everett. They're both crystal ball to Georgia, and I think the 24/7 Sports is on par with this one. I like what they have in terms of skill set, size. These guys are going to be phenomenal ball players, and I think they're a package deal. I think Jamil Adai, Glenn Schumann, they're still in town at Georgia, even though Dan Lanning's gone. I don't think him leaving affects much of anything for these two players. So I think the two IMG defensive backs, they're ranked 20th and 29th. They will be a package deal, and I think they'll end up in Athens and play for the Bulldogs. Look at some other guys that are committed. Malik Brown, he's flipped from Oklahoma to SC once Lincoln Riley took the job, one of those matter day guys. Walker Howard, he's going to come in and compete with Garrett Nussmeier. I think LSU, Brian Kelly, they might look to bring in a veteran from the transfer portal. There's plenty of them out there right now, so I wouldn't be shocked if they brought in a notable name, because that's what they did with Jack Cohen at Notre Dame, despite having a highly touted recruit and Tyler Buckner showing up there. So I think Walker Howard, Garrett Nussmeier, and I think you'll see a veteran compete for the job next year. LSU's quarterback room, I think, for the next couple of years, they're going to be just fine. Jacoby Matthews, speaking of guys that LSU might be able to land, a safety that's a little under 200 pounds, another potential add for the Aggies. I think Brian Kelly, he's going to have some time. He doesn't plan on making his commitment till the 2nd of January. I think he needs to find a way to be able to keep him home. He's from less than an hour from Baton Rouge. Mike Elko leaving. Again, another one of those what ifs. Elko left. Does that mean they're going to stay commitment-wise? I think most of them will be okay, and they're not going to factor Elko leaving too much into their decision. But it could. I don't know. I'm not too close to it, so I'm not sure. But I think Matthews, he'll stay home. He was committed to LSU one time, and of course he decommitted. He did visit LSU the night they beat A&M, Coach O's final game. That was a pretty nice atmosphere to enjoy. So I think he will eventually land in Baton Rouge and stay home. Looking at some other guys that are uncommitted before I wrap this up. N.A. White, an edge rusher. Amari Abor, another edge rusher. The Aggies, of course, they're crystal ball to get a lot of these guys. This is a very exciting time for Jimbo Fisher and his crew. Another guy we skipped over was Marvin Jones Jr. He's a top premier edge rusher. I think you can consider him a lock for Alabama, the Fort Lauderdale native. You've seen what Will Anderson's did this year as, an outside linebacker, edge rusher type. And Jones going to Alabama. It just seems like a perfect fit, ideal. Going back down to the bottom half of the top 50, Ernest Green, Georgia, looking to come up with a big steal, from St. John Bosco all the way out there in California, currently crystal balled to Georgia. There's some other guys involved, including the hometown Trojans, Bill Bedenbaugh, one of the best offensive line coaches in college football. He followed Riley over from Oklahoma, so I think the Trojans will look to make a big, long push here at the end. But Matt Luke, he's also a phenomenal offensive line coach. But you never know with some recruits. Are they really that interested in coming across the country to play their ball? That's always iffy, and that's always up to them. So I think this will come down to Georgia and USC, but I think Georgia will end up getting the land there. And they also have 41st and 42nd ranked recruits, so the Bulldogs having another phenomenal class despite having no top 10 commitments. Shaz Preston, another Louisiana guy. Alabama, they do a pretty good job of coming to Louisiana and stealing some premier prospects. Brian Kelly's got a lot of work to do, so that one's kind of a coin toss at the moment as well. I like Zion Branch, a safety, 6'2", 195, out of Bishop Gorman. His brother's a 5-star receiver currently in the 2023 class. Money, consider them a package deal for USC. I think whichever school Zion settles on, his brother will as well. I don't think two brothers would want to go play elsewhere when they could, as highly touted recruits, play anywhere in the country they want together. This one should be interesting, though, but I think most people consider USC the favorite, especially with Dante Williams coming back to town. It almost kind of solidifies some of those defensive back recruits they're coming after. A lot of excitement in the program currently. So Zion Branch, I would consider him a lock for USC. He's down to his final 3, and Ohio State is one of them. So those will be the 2 I think it ultimately comes down to. And he'll be putting on the Trojan hat. And then you look at Anthony Lucas, another defensive lineman, for A&M. I'm just kind of curious what happens if all these other defensive linemen are interested in going to A&M. Are they all going to commit together? Or, are these guys afraid of competition? I'm sure they're not, but sometimes the stackment of depth can be kind of an issue. I think Notre Dame, though, is a team to watch of Marcus Freeman getting that head coaching job. I think they can make a late push. I think it's going to come down ultimately to Bama, A&M, and Notre Dame. No real prediction on this one. The guy from Arizona, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of dependent on what other people do, but he'll be committing here in 2 days, so we'll see what happens. But some very good recruits are still out there. The early signing day means that a lot of these guys will be cleared out by the time we get to February. But it's always an exciting time as we close in on NSD. A lot of talent to go around. And this is a very interesting class. I talked about at the top of the show the diversity with none of the big schools really in play for any of these top 10 recruits other than Alabama. So, very interesting class. That's going to wrap everything up for today's episode. Leave some comments below on what do you think these top guys will go. Some of these guys, like Damani, will be committing on December 15th. So plenty to look out for here over the next day or two. And then it should be a nice run to the finish line as we get closer to the NSD.